And as I mentioned earlier, our topic is a practitioner's playbook for accounting firms in the MTD and AI era. And this session is especially focused towards the accounting and the bookkeeping firms who are focused on their operational efficiency and to build systems as you scale. We're delighted to have Aitch here. Aitch Haroon has been the CEO and founder of CIGMA Accounting. He's built up his practice in the UK. He has offices in London. And he has built a fully integrated automation-led practice, which he is going to talk a little bit more to us about. Thank you so much for joining us, Aitch. Over to you.
Thank you, Reshma, and thanks for a very kind intro. Just going through that this practical book is not going through the software. It will be really a story about operational change, what worked, what did not, and what generally surprised us. And rather than adding more into this theory, I want to share what actually changed inside our firm when we redesigned how decisions and workflow operates. As we go more deeper into this, you may recognize part of your own firm in your processes, your team conversations, or decisions that seem to repeat every week. If you resonate anything, feel free to drop your message in the chat box and one of my team members will get back to you. Or if it's a common theme, we're happy to run another session. Let's start this. So earlier I mentioned to Reshma, it's all about operations, how sophisticated the operation is. So if you're running an accounting firm today, you are probably working harder than ever, yet decisions feel slower, teams feel busier, and MTD often feels like a pressure rather than a progress. Today, I want to show you what you changed when we stopped trying to work harder and redesign how decisions happen inside the firm. The main goal is the operations, understanding firms' growing challenges, increased complexity. Firms are experiencing significant rise in complexities, leading to operational strain. More decisions and expectations create heavier workload, contributing to team stress and burnout. And it did happen in our firm, and we realized that in order to keep the staff happy, client happy, we need to do something. And especially if it's a one director company or two directors company with limited staff, then the directors and the practitioners, they're churning all the time. They're not thinking. If you are churning and not thinking, you're just going through day by day. What we want is a long-term thinking and a short-term thinking at the same time. And burnout due to mental load. Mental load on team has grown, resulting in overwhelmed professionals. As the number of tasks increase, so does the pressure to make timely and accurate decisions. So this is very important for firms to look at their operations and see where the inefficiencies are. What are the real issues? And this is what I believe in. The most accounting firms faces a decision density problem rather than a workload issue. High volume of routine tasks lead to significant number of micro decisions that burden teams. They're doing the same thing over and over and over, and as a 100%, and there are loads of decisions you have to take. So it takes a lot of time from partners and the directors to keep explaining the team members, keep explaining the client. So bringing efficiency in operation could help you to release some of the density problem. It also increased stress accumulation. Micro decisions create stress and delay in workflows. This increased mental load often results in operational inefficiencies, impacting both employee morale and client service delivery. There's a high expectation from us, from both sides. As an employer, we have to look after our employees. At the same time, we have to look after our clients. So who end up having these stresses, either the owner, director, senior managers. So we need to start looking and start focusing on these things. And MTD is not going to help much because there's more compliance coming through. And by this time, you might be thinking, this sounds familiar. And hopefully it will resonate with you guys more and more in the later stages. What MTD is asking is transform traditional accounting, exposing inefficiencies and enhancing transparency, ensuring firms adapt to new expectations while improving operational effectiveness in the modern digital landscape. What are the operational challenges? Legacy system struggles under the demand of MTD. So if you have an old system, this might struggle because the system is based on submitting tax return once a year. Now we have to do 4, 5 times in a year. So therefore, if you have a system which cannot cope this, it will add stress to your life. So revealing a need for a firm to redesign their processes, enabling them to meet client expectations and streamline workflow. We're already implementing in our firm. We have identified a number of processes we do every time when MTD comes in. We learn from our VAT MTD, and now we're implementing those tasks which are repetitive and bring flows in there. So I would suggest maybe start thinking, you have got a couple of months to start looking at your flows and see which will work effectively and the one which will require your attention. What client expectation is, the client expect everything now, and this is thanks to Amazon, Uber, and yes, we cannot compare with big firms like that, but these are the same clients using their services. And if they are using their services, they back of their heads like, why accounting is not at that level? So they're looking for faster reporting. Clients now expect real-time updates and immediate access to their financial data. This demands require accounting practices to enhance their responsiveness and improve reporting capabilities significantly. We had a very similar issue in the past, and therefore we come up with a plan where our client can able to access their data from the portal. And this is something you need to start thinking that how can they have the data where they don't have to keep asking you that question. And if they don't ask you a question, it saves time for your staff members and yourself. And that time can go into something more productive rather than pure admin work. Client also looking for greater transparency. There's an increasing need of clear communication regarding service delivery. They want to know when they are expecting their set of accounts, when they're expecting set of VAT returns, when they're expecting for tax returns. And if you do not have that data, then it's very hard to commit with the client. Therefore, client desire insight into their account. They expect regular updates on the status of their financial matter. So start thinking where you have enough data, and the data can only come in if you have a structured system. The structured system can give you how long it takes us to complete a tax return. If it's a one director company, it may be in your head, but then are you thinking to grow? If you're thinking to grow, then you have to give some kind of budgeted hours to your staff members, so then you can implement and they can deliver. Now that delivery then transpires straight into client expectation. And if you deliver before what client expected, then of course your service level get better, you get good reviews. And also it's good for staff, their morale usually go high. What we observed within our firm, and also spoken to some other firms and our peers, is the team workflow issues. There are inefficiencies between the team workflows, unnecessary movement between the team members, and this applies to the companies who usually have a bigger team, and maybe it sounds very familiar. It goes back and forth too many times, and the reason is the confusion. Increasing time, a confusion who own that task, which increase time to complete the project, significantly reducing overall efficiency, accountability within the firm, and also a cost to produce the set of accounts and tax return go up if it keeps moving back and forth. That means then it's not just the staff member, but also a partner or a director who's reviewing that work. Frequent clarification question arises due to unclear task ownership. This creates bottlenecks in the work, leading to frustration among teams, members, and hindering time decision-making processes across the firm. So if we go back to what we said is the density issue and more than workflow, so they both come together to make sure that you reduce the density and as timely decision-making across the firm, it will help to increase the decision-making, which will reduce the time. That means you'll be able to deliver your work in time. At this point, many firms start recognizing their own pattern. It's good to start resonating, because if it's easier, then you can feel that you're going through the same and you're not the only one in this industry. So it's a clear pattern we see. Where we believe and what we have seen in our firm, where usually delays come from. Ownership clarity. People don't know what they're supposed to be doing. So that delay often stems from uncertainty regarding ownership of tasks. When team members are unsure who's responsible for what, it creates confusion and hinders their progress. So we always say whoever's supposed to be doing something, they own that task, and they have to have some kind of a checklist that they have completed the checklist. Then that checklist needs to be handed over to the next team member, so they're fully aware that the person who did the job completed the job and not a new person. That also stops back and forth work. You can also monitor the things usually go back and forth. Is what's the reason? So you capture that data too. So then you can implement and hedge against those risks. Scope of questions. Frequent inquiries about project scope lead to delays. And if you don't have a centralized system where you don't know about the client, then it's very hard to repeat those questions with the client or internally. So having a database where you can add about the client, what they do, so their background, what their expectation is, because every client have different kind of expectations. Some of the clients want to get their work done ASAP. Some of the clients delayed. So you need to find, and also staff member need to understand their clients well, and understanding a scope of work. A scope of work will start from very start, which is when you make a sale or bring a new client in. You need to be very clear how many payroll they have to do, how many director self-assessments are there, do they have, what the expectation is, and how usually client communicate, either email, either WhatsApp, either messages. And these preferred communication channels help to complete the job. So if you have this information in one place, the delays dramatically drop and the client satisfaction usually goes up. Cost of micro decisions. What we discovered is most firms don't really have workload problem. And as I mentioned, it's usually the decision density problem. So this is, it slowed down the work by 20%. Too many small decisions being made manually every day. Automation didn't remove effort, it removes uncertainty. Information chasing, like constantly chasing the information. And if I just discuss about what I said in my previous, if you know about the client, that how they work, then it becomes very easy to either get the information. Some clients like to have a call and then they usually send the information. Some clients only like to have through the email. So preferred communication usually help. So chasing information end up taking a lot of time, and when they come back to you right at the end, then it adds a pressure to your team. So I would suggest having a really understanding of the communication you want to communicate with your client, and these decisions should take away some stress, which accumulate over time. Scope of clarification, frequent scope of clarification create unnecessary interruption. So if these interruption in the workflow leading to stop and start cycle, this pattern accumulate exhaustion and hamper productivity. So before somebody start the work, they really have to go back to check, making sure what's the scope, why I'm producing this work, understanding of a business they are operating in. So then you can claim a right kind of expenses. If you don't know, you prepare a full set of accounts, send it to the client, or a tax return, then it comes back and saying that you have not claimed these expenses. So realize that, okay, from very start, the scope when we're working on the clients is not clear. So it takes a bit of effort to start with to write up a scope, but over time, it pays off. So we suggest to be very clear with the client what they're looking for, because they can't change their goalpost all the time. So if you have something agreed with the client, send an email, confirm with them, this is what we have agreed. Do you agree with that? Save that email. And next time, if they come to you, you can always say, this is what we agreed. It's more than you're asking. So either negotiate with the price or either train your team members. So these micro decisions can help to be more efficient in the firm. We use centralized system. We have every client comes on board, they go through certain checks. If it doesn't go through the certain checks, usually we don't pass to the next stage. So it has to fill those forms in order for us to understand the client in detail, and then we start also adding some buckets of where they fall. All the clients, are they fall into construction? Do they fall into consultancy? And then we internally link them and get much better data about the client, and it help us to deliver first time correct when we send it to the client, rather than coming back and forth from the client. A different question here, focus on clarity. By embedding clarity into your workflow, firms can minimize need for decision, streamline operations, and enable team to function more effectively. So instead of just thinking that I'm going to automate everything, first thing what you want to automate. So you have to have a very clear guideline. Okay, I want to go from A to B to C. So spending some time and understanding your flows are very important. And simplify your processes. Design a system which is easy to follow. First time, if you use a system, it's not going to be easy. But over time, if you say, if my staff member is able to grab this system within 1 or 2 training, then it's a good outcome. So always make sure that when you set up some kind of a workflow, it's not just for you, but it's for your team. So make sure that when you set up a flow, it's easy to follow, less breakage. So usually the system, when you have loads of processes in place, if one breaks, then you have a knock-on impact. So make sure that there is always a cushion. So if a couple of processes fail, at what point we'll be able to capture that information and we're able to retune that process, rather than it goes in cyclical way and it fails until a client make a complaint. So there should be a mechanism in place in there where you'll be able to see if the process failed and simplify your processes, because it will increase your team morale. We already discussed about system first and embedding structure in the clarity. I'm going to explain a bit more in terms of clear ownership. And when I see a project, split into separate boxes. So every box, there should be an owner. It should go through a streamline. It goes through a process. So if someone who's responsible for bookkeeping, they are aware of this, they have got real ownership. If someone's then looking at the TB and preparing set of accounts, then they are aware of this. Then you have got review process. So at every task, there's someone who is responsible for this. And before it moves to the new person, the previous person should do a handover. That's a good way to look at. And then again, like I said, centralize your workflows. It comes into one system. In our company, all our key email come into one system. Then it goes to the right people. All calls come into one system. So then we also look at the workflows. They come into one system and against each client. So we look at the behaviors, we look at the patterns for the client, we look at the pattern for our staff members, how long it takes them to complete the job. Then we see if it's a similar job, it will take a very similar time. It helps us with pricing. So centralizing a workflow is a huge task, but it's been very beneficial. And we are working in our firm. It's still evolving every day, but it is in a place where we can make some decisions. Increase team confidence. If they are aware what they are going to do, they come in the morning, they're pretty much aware what their job is. If they are, then they can focus on their work and they can make the right decision, and they own those decisions. And if that's happened, then the whole cycle works for the team, for the company, for the partners, for directors. As I mentioned, if your workflows are centralized and you have enough data that how much time goes into particular client, you have start understanding the pricing and start stabilizing. Establishing a clear understanding of delivery effort is essential for setting appropriate pricing. This ensures that both firms and clients are aligned. Clearly defining service boundaries allow for calmer and more consistent pricing conversation. This fosters trust, reduces misunderstanding, and ultimately enhancing the client. So it shouldn't be in your head. There should be some kind of a mechanism who can help you with price stability. Recently, when MTD VAT came in, we had 14 internal touch points. Now we have got 6 structure stages. It's saved between 30 minutes to 1 hour on each VAT return now. And if you add those 1 hour across maybe 100 clients, that's 400 hours. That's 2 or 3 months of full-time work. So understanding your flow could help. By removing unnecessary hesitation, the redesigning workflow allows teams to focus on technical work, resulting in smoother operation, notably improved client experience throughout the VAT process. What we have seen is over time, the complaints has gone down, our reviews has gone up, and the morale of our team has gone up. People enjoying what they're doing right now. They clear their responsibilities, and the clients are staying with us for longer because they don't have to repeat themselves. And I think it's just pure, we streamline the processes, we understood what the clients are looking for, and making sure that we deliver according to their expectation. And it's consistency. We keep doing the same thing over and over and over until it gets better. So one unexpected change was team conversation became calmer because people could see progress without asking. So this is what has changed, and it is giving me a time to think and make the system better. Why this matter? Because you need a sustainable growth, and also you want to make sure that you evolve with technology. We have been evolving with the technology. We've been using Zoho platform for now over 5-6 years. We've been using their 30 to 35 apps right now to run our system. And it is helping my team members, they're helping me to have more control over our decisions which we make and work for the company. So what we discovered is that transformation isn't about adding more technology. It's about creating structure that reduces uncertainty. Technology is the backbone, but transformation happens in how systems are applied to people. When confidence improves, pricing improves. And when pricing improves, growth becomes intentional. And we have seen that in our firm. If this resonates, we are running a small practice transformation roundtable where we go deeper into how this works operationally in our firm. We will have practical conversations rather than presentation. These are my details. If you have any question, drop us an email. If you are interested in another transformation roundtable, please let Reshma know, and I'm here to help you. Thank you.
Thank you, Aitch. Perfectly timed. That's 30 minutes on the dot. All right. Thank you, everyone, for attending the session. As Aitch mentioned, if you have any questions or if you are interested in attending the roundtable that we plan in future, please do drop us a message either in the chat, or you could always reach out to us and we will let you know as and when we plan, so that we send across a link to you so that you can register. Once again, thank you so much, Aitch. Happy to have you here today.